What is going on, y'all? We got a video today. This one is called More Than a Dozen Indicted in Bronx Gang Takeover. For those people that don't know, the Bronx right now, which is a borough in New York City, is one of the most dangerous boroughs there is in the city because there's so much violence that's been going on. There's a lot of gang violence. We have stuff like drill rap, which came from, what was that, Chicago maybe? It came to the Bronx, and basically it's just kids going back and forth. Basically, the dozens, but much more violent. They use guns to settle the differences. By the way, for those people that responded to my last video, I appreciate it. I know a lot of people say I spoke a lot through it without playing the video. One of the reasons for that, though, would be, and I'm trying to explain to myself here, because I know people say, hey, a lot of people say, hey, you don't have to explain nothing, but I explain to the viewers. If I don't pause the video, I do get a copyright and strike. But I will link the full video if you want to see it. And it's right here, Pix 11 News. You can go check that out and you'll see the full video. But this is me playing the More Than a Dozen Indicted in Bronx gang takeover. Let's go.
Please, open the door.
It only took a few seconds between police announcing their arrival, executing an arrest warrant, and a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son, a suspected gang member. She put up a fight. After minutes of tense moments in a small vestibule, police were able to get control and get her 20-year-old son in handcuffs.
And I'm going to continue the video after this. Why would you want to put your family through this? Why would you want to you're 20 years old. But at that point, you should have your life, should have goals in your life. And terrorizing your neighborhood should not be one of those goals. But we continue. Let's play the video.
Say he's a member of the 1300 crew.
You're probably the most violent guys that are still out on the street.
Police say the 1300 crew is responsible for wreaking havoc throughout the North Bronx, on the streets, in subways, and in NYCHA. Surveillance video shows a drive-by shooting, the victim walking down a street. He died right there. And
imagine that. Walk into, just say, if you from New York, you know what we're talking about. Middle of the night, might want to grab a chopped cheese or something like that. You go into the store, and that's the last time you went anywhere because a stray bullet just hit you in the head. These guys, man, I know people think about the street code and you abide by the street code and all this, but think about the people in the neighborhood that you're terrorizing. That's why I try to tell people this all the time because people try to justify these actions. Think about the people in the neighborhood you're terrorizing. Look at this now. Look at this young, elderly woman here.
the moment in broad daylight when an innocent 73-year-old woman, you can see her right there falling to the ground. She's shot in the leg.
The bullet goes right through her leg. People deserve better than that.
And it's not just gun violence. The crew allegedly went on a 6-day robbery spree 2 years ago. They brutally attacked an off-duty officer while he was on a morning jog.
That's brave.
This surveillance video shows him outnumbered, taking a beating behind that white SUV.
I have so much pain, in my back, my shoulder, my
He's a
head.
cop.
Pix 11 News spoke exclusively with Officer Mohammed Chaudhry after he was released from the hospital. He was in bad shape then.
His life was shattered, changed forever. He'll never be the same. Never came back full duty.
After about 3 years of putting the pieces together and building their case, NYPD officers are getting ready to go out and get the last few suspects in custody. Pix 11 News has the only camera there. Before they roll out, a moment of reflection.
Way back when you raised your hand, why did you take this job?
Assistant Chief Jason Savino believes reminding the detectives of why they took the oath will drive them to get closure for the victims. Before sunrise, in a well-orchestrated approach, detectives drive to several locations and move in. They arrest 3 men, one by one.
Anything you want to say for yourself?
Well, Mom, they bum rushed to my crib for nothing.
Talk about
I mean, let's be fair right now. proven until guilty, right? Because a lot of these guys, they probably have association with some of these gangs because they live in the neighborhood, but we don't know if they're guilty or not. But let's be honest, there's still an issue at hand, whereas the gangs are terrorizing the neighborhoods. And young, think about it, 20-year-old. I've heard about stories as far as 13-year-olds with guns in the Bronx. Now, somebody got to do something. Say what you got to say about the police and their tactics and what they do, but somebody got to do it, man. And if it's left up to us, I don't think we have the manpower, or we probably do. Some of us just don't care at all. Some of us let these kids go and do what they got to do, and they look at other issues at hand. Because if you think about it, the average person, they're thinking about how they can put food on the table, more money to get out of here, because a lot of people want to get the hell out of here. But while they're doing all of that, their kids are roaming the streets doing whatever they want. And 20, you're not a kid anymore. At 20, at 18, I already had about two different jobs and going to school. So, man, something got to be done. That's just all I'm saying. We continue.
The dangers of these operations.
Anytime we prep for these types of large-scale operations, we always want to take into consideration all the tactics that we train for every day.
The department, working with Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark, announces an indictment against at least 15 gang members. Most of them face serious charges, including murder or attempted murder. Wrapping up this case for law enforcement is to bring relief to the community.
You to feel like you're kind of doing something like a greater good, is our primary focus is to ensure that the residents of New York City can walk the streets, be safe, worry-free.
If you pull a trigger in New York City, we're going to do everything in our power to hunt you down and take you off the streets, especially when you're striking innocent bystanders and endangering the lives of people just going about their ordinary lives.
And to what that cop just said right there, when you pull the trigger, in New York State is one of the toughest state on gun laws. You pull a trigger, you fire a gun, you have a gun. They're bringing a hammer down on you. It could be a federal case you're dealing with there, and I think it's about 3 to 5 years if you have a gun. You shoot someone, that's a whole different felony. There's several different things that come down on you with, man. New York is stringent. Their laws are so tough. That's why I don't get why people get involved in these things. And that's because I don't personally know. Listen to me. I've been on the streets before. What I think of, and when I think of scenarios and when you're on the streets, I'm always thinking of, yeah, you can always get out of that. But then everybody's not me. Everybody's not you. There could be situations where you can't, or where you're trying to, but you got this group of people, the gang, and they're pulling you back. There's a lot of times, who is the gang? I saw one case with, K Flock? And I'm not trying to diss nobody. I don't want nobody coming at me, but I know K Flock, the K Flock situation. I think somebody in his crew and the other crew he was fighting with, they were cousins. They were cousins, and one of them, was threatening to off the other one. Cousins, blood cousins. So, I want to sympathize with him and say I get it, but then I want to say, hey man, I don't get it, because if you got people that know this going on, this situation is going on, you gotta go on and get your family member out of that situation, man. There's too many. First thing first, they're terrorizing the neighborhood, right? Not only terrorizing the neighborhood, they can lose their lives. They can be sent to jail, and all of that comes back to you having to pay more. Say they go to jail, now you gotta send them money, commissary or whatever, so they can live and eat well in prison. Next thing would be they die. A funeral, man, that's $15,000 to $20,000. Who got $15,000 to $20,000 tossed down the drain? Whether it be they themselves killing someone or they themselves dying. They killing someone or they themselves dying. All around, this activity right here, this street activity, is not in any way, shape, or form good for the community. And a lot of people like to talk about community and they talk about these kids, but then they try to bypass this whole thing that these kids are not effing it up more for us than anything else. Because we get it. Some people go, oh yeah, the white man is part of the problem. But what's going on right now? What do we see right now? Right now, right now. What happens? We got these young kids that's acting like adults because they don't have the wisdom to bring themselves out of this. So we either gotta grab them from when they're little, and we gotta do something with the current ones right now that's terrorizing the neighborhood. That lady was what 70-something-year-old and she got shot in the leg. 70-something-year-old can barely walk, man. They can barely walk. Shot in the leg. You know what's gonna happen to that woman? That's not gonna heal like a 20, a 30-year-old. She's gonna be probably stuck in a wheelchair or a walker for like another, I don't know, year, two, five, the rest of her life. We gotta start thinking, man. And I've heard a situation where, and I'm talking right now. Forgive me, or listen, because I'm speaking my piece right now. A lot of people say that, but I say it now. They terrorize the younger kids and they get them involved in this and they recruit them, they mold them to be just like them. It's like a disease, it's like a parasite that, and they stick onto you, and now they form you into them, they replicate themselves and they put those kids onto the streets. And that's probably the case with these kids right now, the ones they arrested. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit the follow, please share, and please subscribe. Love y'all.